Welcome to the Firehouse Sergeants Podcast, hosted by Nicholas Palumbo.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of the Firehouse Sergeants Podcast. Tonight, we have a great guest lined up from the West Coast. Tonight we are joined by Dr. Johnny Torgeson. Dr. JT holds a doctorate in strategic leadership and is an assistant chief of operations at U.S. Marine Corps Logistic Base, Barstow, California. He is a college instructor, owner of FireDawg Engineering, a U.S. Army veteran, and author of the fire engineering books bestseller, Forging Your Team, Demystifying Team Development for First Responders. Throughout his career, Johnny has focused on helping firefighters and officers build strong cultures, develop high-performing crews, and lead with purpose. Welcome to the show, Chief Johnny Torgeson.
Hey, what's up, Nick? Thanks for having me on, man.
What's up, brother? Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I know I know the time difference is a little, middle of your evening, cutting into your dinner time.
No, it's all good, man. If you hear any screaming, it's grandchildren in the background having a blast.
Grandchildren.
Oh yeah.
You look younger than me.
Oh man, no, I'm old, bro.
All right, so let's get to it. Where'd you grow up? What brought you to the fire service?
Yeah, I grew up in Orange County, California, and I guess what brought me in was my dad. While I was in high school, he kept asking me, hey, what do you want to do with your life? You need to figure it out before you graduate. Like, don't just go through life floating. Have a plan, have a purpose, kind of thing. His big message is, whatever I choose, just laser focus on it. Except I didn't know what I wanted to do because I didn't get good grades. And, I was always told by teachers, even my parents, everybody, hey, if you don't get good grades, you're not going to amount to anything, And so I just wasn't a scholar in high school because I just didn't care about it. I cared about sports, I cared about friends, all the stuff, your typical, dude in high school, really. And but nonetheless,
it sounds a lot like me most of my time.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of our journeys,
Yeah.
But I'm getting close to the senior year or the end of the senior year, I should say. And my dad asked me this question again. And all the times before, he would ask me, I put, upwards of 30 seconds of thought into it, before I move on with my day. And, this time I put an additional 30 seconds into it. And I was like, I'm just going to be a firefighter. And that was just kind of the end of it. That's how much thought I put into it. It wasn't I want to be a firefighter, since I was a young kid. In fact, people would ask me, hey, you want to be a firefighter? I'd be like, no. That's where I have an atypical journey is, I wasn't, I didn't have any family members in the fire service. I knew nothing about it, Okay. So that's how I got into the occupation. Just one day I woke up and said, I'm going to be a fireman.
All right. It's as good as anything, right?
Hey, man, it worked.
It's very interesting. See, we just got a new guy at work, and I was sitting with him, having a spar with him the other night after dinner, and I told him, I was like, I knew, because Monmouth County, where I work, it's small, close knit. Everybody in the firehouse, everybody in the fire service kind of knows everybody, right? And I was like, don't take offense to this. I was like, I know your name from just being from Monmouth County and stuff. I was like, but I ask everybody this. Why are you here? He's like I wanted the job. I was like, no. What drew you to the fire service? That's something I got into at a young age, asking people that. Now they call it finding their why, but because like you think about it, right? The fire service, you only see the fire service in like our darkest, deepest moments. Like you see us when we're dealing with death, dealing with bad, horrible incidents, or we're standing for horrible dealing with one of our own guys, and that makes headlines. The public never sees like unless you have ties to the fire service, you never see like camaraderie, the fun stuff that like that. So like for me, I grew up in the fire service, and I always wanted to be a fireman. So for me, I don't understand like why a normal person would see us in the news and be like, I want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a contingent out there of us that had to grow to love the fire service. Meaning I got into this occupation just wanting a cool job,
Now, what came first, the military or the fire service?
It was both. I joined as a military firefighter.
Okay.
So yeah, it's one of our interview questions. Well, we'll ask people, candidates, why they wanted to be a firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
And we typically get the canned answer, and some of them I'm sure are honest and not canned, but I would say 80% of every answer is, something to do with, I want to help my community. I wanted to help my community and, help people, and, I think it's not a lie because, you don't get into this occupation without, some of that being there, but I would say that that's not really the main reason when you're like 18, 19, 20 years old. Like it can be, but by in part, I don't think that's the main reason why a lot of us get into the occupation. I think you fall in love with the occupation once you're in it, and then you fall in love with helping and being there for the community. But an 18-year-old male, I don't buy it. I have too many friends when I was 18 that were also firefighters, and so when they give me that, answer, I'm looking for the real, like authentic.
Why are you really here?
Yeah. Like, why are you really here? Because you're just telling me what I want to hear or what you think I want to hear, but that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear like why you're really here. Now, mind you, it probably wouldn't do too well for like complete honesty, like, because if I were to like be completely honest with that question, it's
I wanted to drive a big red Scud missile down the street.
Yeah, I mean that may be for some people, but for me, it's like I thought like firemen get paid pretty well, and chicks dig firefighters. It's like that's
wait, they do.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's
like
the mind frame of an 18 and 17-year-old. I want to be there for the community. That's part of it. Like you can't deny that.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think that's something you grow into as you mature as a man and as a firefighter, more than you're just there at 17 or 18. That's just not a thing.
Yeah, no, I see that 100%, and I agree, especially like even as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, I'm like the difference in the society nowadays versus you look at, not to bring it up like that, but 9/11 versus December 8th, 1941. Look at the recruiting difference. Every able-bodied male, 18 and over, was going to the draft, to the enlistment, to the recruiter on December 8th, 1941. We didn't see that. Like, we saw a lot of patriotism. We saw a lot of nationalism, national pride in our country and support in our country on December 12th. or September 12th rather, but we didn't see droves and droves going to the recruiter. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think today our society isn't really as, you know, growing up, we're not, ingrained with so much of a community first culture as they used to be, kind of thing. Um, I don't know if maybe,
Yeah.
maybe you don't, maybe you see more of that in the West Coast. I don't know.
I would say it's harder to see it in the West Coast, much easier to see it on the East Coast. I mean, last time I looked, I think we finally dipped into the 60 percentile, but it's still like 68%, 69% of the fire service is still volunteer. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on that, but it's around that number, which is still staggering because of growing up in the West Coast. It's There's barely any volunteers. It's all professional fire departments around here that get paid very, very well. And the reason why that's important for this discussion is, volunteerism. I'm just in awe of the East Coast and really just any volunteer firefighter. It's funny, like there's like you'll hear like and see professional firefighters look down on volunteers, and I have the exact opposite. And this is not virtual signaling by any stretch of imagination. I truly feel this way. Like people have families and jobs, and people are just trying to make ends meet, and then you're going to give all this time to go help your community for free. And it's not even just that; those are just the calls. You and I know the amount of preparation and training that has to go into that. There's nothing like it in the world, outside of, police and, military maybe, but there's so much you have to know as a firefighter, and to take on that burden as a volunteer for your community, because who else is going to come? They don't have a professional department, it's like you're it. And so they take that time away from the additional time away from their family, from their 9 to 5. And they devote that just to train, let alone, run these calls. And so I look up to volunteer firefighters greatly, and it's something that is dwindling, and I don't think it's really because of like generational. I really think it's the pressures of society and what you have to do to make ends meet these days. There's a lot of demand on your attention.
Absolutely. And I mean, just even the cost of living is like the percentage of what the cost of living was to ratio back then, even in the 90s, as it is to now, whereas, back in the 60s, dad could work one job, come home, have a stay-at-home mom, raise, the ward and I don't know what Mrs. Cleaver's name was, but it was Leave It to Beaver,
Yeah.
That life doesn't exist anymore. But all right, let's back it up. Let's not be so deep right off the bat. Damn, we started off hard.
Yeah.
So you decided you want to be a fireman, and what brought you to the Army recruiter to be a fireman? Because I mean, a lot of people, and I mean even DoD firemen, don't really know that the U.S. Army has uniformed firefighters. Usually we see that in the Marine Corps, at air stations, and the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah. The short story of that was I was enrolled at a local community college to take all the prerequisites to get into their fire academy. And while I was in the midst of those classes, this is when, like phones were attached to cords that were attached to walls. But it's crazy. So that phone rang, and I pick it up, and it's a recruiter on the other end. Probably got it from my high school, probably like give
One
my
of your
info.
friends, one of your friends wanted the
Maybe. Yeah,
wanted
one of
whatever
your
they were
friends.
handing out.
Yeah. But yeah, he calls me up and he's like, "Hey, son, what do you want to do with your life?" And I said, like, I just want to stop you right there. Like, I appreciate the phone call. And I was this cordial to him. I told him, I want to be a fireman and I'm in school right now. I'm just not interested in joining the military. And he asked me probably the best question he could have asked me. And he said, well, son, how long is that going to take? And it just so happened, a couple of days prior, I was in one of my classes. It was actually fire behavior. And it was this captain at a Corona fire department. And he was telling us a statistic that at that time, this is 1999, at that time, the average age for a firefighter to get a job in Southern California was 28 years old. And so I was 17 when I got this phone call. No, actually, I think I just turned 18. Yeah. So I just turned 18. And so, you do the math. I'm 10 years out. In the back of my mind, though, I'm still thinking like, oh, I'll be the exception. Yeah. Like I'll be there before I'm 28, but it still made me nervous. And so, when you asked me that question, I actually answered them honestly. I was like, well, they say the average age is 28. And that was all this guy needed to hear, because he's like, all right, well, what if I told you?
Tell you on that 10 years.
Yeah. He was like, in the next 6 months, you could be riding the back of a fire engine and being a firefighter and getting paid for it and getting paid to go to college. We'll send you to all the training. And, it didn't take me long to be like, all right, well, I'll see you in your office, And so, I met him up at his office, and, he sold me on it. And so, and he sold me on the fact that he was honest with me in this fact. He said there was only a couple hundred of them in the entire Army. And I'm like, oh man, that's like awesome. Like, I'll be one of the, like, Army's huge and there's only a couple hundred of these guys. Like, yeah, dude, sign me up. What he didn't tell me was like how hard it is to actually get the position, because, the spots fill up quick.
Yeah, there's only 200 spots.
Yeah, exactly. And well, there's, only a couple open, and, those, the ones that do pop open, they fill up quick. And so when I went down to MEPS, the guy that's across the table, and he's like, he's asking me like, hey, which occupation you want to choose? And I was like, well, I'm here to be a fireman. And he, like, without even hesitation, he's like, oh, we don't have any of those, but and they're like, no skipping a beat. You can be a.
They didn't even look.
Yeah, like you could be a crew chief. You could be, like. I'm like, wait a second. I was like, sir, I don't waste your time. I'm not here to just join the military. I'm here to be a firefighter. And I guess he took offense to that, because he like left the table or whatever, his desk, I should say. And then, like, I don't know, 20 minutes later, my recruiter's like, hey, you need to be more respectful. And I was like, man, I didn't know I was being disrespectful. I was just being, frank with them. Like I'm not here just to join the military. Like, I'm trying to be a firefighter. So like, I'm either doing that in the Army or I'm not joining the Army.
6 months, I'll be riding the fire truck.
And so, long story short, this guy eventually calls me back to his desk, and they, this might upset the female members of your audience, but they opened up a female slot. There's like some female slot that they hadn't filled yet, and I took that slot. So, whatever,
Hey, they can't judge anymore.
Right. They converted it to a male slot, but that tells you even back in 1999 they were having quotas, of like female and male firefighters, and so they missed their quota that year.
So what did you like? I know in the Army, certain MOSs go to certain basic training. Where'd you go?
Yeah, so that was kind of cool how that played out. So when I was in advanced individual training, in San Angelo, it's kind of like I think it's kind of twofold in how it works. At least at the time, this could have changed now, but my impression of how this kind of all worked as far as getting orders to your first duty station, because you don't get them till you're in AIT, obviously,
Okay.
is they see how like you do in the fire academy. And I think they asked the drill sergeants that are in charge of the company of the firefighters, like recommendations, and so I was fortunate because you can go to like a ordnance division and not do a lick of firefighting in the Army. Like you can go to a mailroom in Germany. It's crazy to say, and not do any firefighting.
Fireman?
Yes. I knew a couple people who were stationed in Germany, and they just worked the mailroom, and they had a terrible time and left the military immediately because they're not doing their job.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be a fireman. Like, I didn't think
So I don't know how much of that's luck of the draw, how much of it was like their performance during the academy.
Yeah.
But I was called into the drill sergeant's office myself, and actually a really, really good friend of mine. His name is Gabriel Hammett. We're still best friends to today. And we were both called in there, and he's like, hey, this is like, we're like a few days out from graduating. He's like, hey, we love what you guys did. And we want to send you to Fort Drum. That place is special to us. And so we feel like you guys are a good fit for it. So that's what kind of gave me that impression is I think there was, billets that need to be filled. And it wasn't just like random.
Yeah.
It could be random for some people. It wasn't random for myself and my best friend, at least. So yeah, I went to Fort Drum, New York, which is a deployable unit. And so we did get deployed.
Were you with the 10th Mountain?
Yep, 10th Mountain Division. Yeah.
I actually have a one of my captains. I actually mentioned him in my book. A guy named Jim Sidoric. He when he was in the Army, he was actually a firefighter attached to the 10th Mountain, and he was down in Somalia with the 10th Mountain. He had rotated back from deployment. I think it was like a week or two before the Black Hawk Down incident.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, there's a few of those cats that did quite a few deployments right before I got there. As soon as I got there, a few months later, we had 9/11. But we were already scheduled for deployment to go to Egypt for Operation Bright Star.
Okay.
And so they were initially going to deploy us immediately right after 9/11 to Ground Zero. And then they decided otherwise a few hours later because they found out all of our equipment was on its way. And so they couldn't replace us. Logistically, it just kind of turned into a mess. And so we wound up deploying to Operation Bright Star, like right after 9/11. But yeah, we were right there in New York, and we were all begging to go. And we were told we were going to go, and then it got changed the last second.
All right. So now when you were at San Angelo, that Goodfellow Air Force Base, right? There's only 200 firefighters in the Army. How many, other than you and your best friend, how many guys were in from the Army? I know they mix you in with, from what I understand, like they mix the Marine firefighters and mix Army firefighters in with a class of Air Force firemen. So how many guys were actually going through for the Army at that point?
Yeah, there was probably about, I don't know, that's a good question. I really thought about that, but maybe like 40 of us at the time, sporadically, because there's 6 blocks.
Okay.
So maybe say there's, let's say there's 60 people or whatever, within the 6 blocks. And then those blocks are running at different times. And so there's probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 of us in each block
Oh, okay.
at a time, which is nothing. It was mostly made up of Air Force.
Mhm.
It was a predominantly Air Force, and then there was a few sprinkled Marines, a few sprinkled Army, and then as far as Navy, I think there was only like 2 or 3 Navy people there for all of the blocks.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think they say something in the Navy like every Navyman's a fireman, and they rest their hat on that. But like,
Yeah.
obviously, that's not true. That's not how that works. But you
Yeah.
can say that. But nonetheless, there's like just a handful of Navy people, and then every block had a sprinkle of Army and Marines, but majority, 80% was Air Force.
Yeah. A buddy of mine went through San Angelo for he was in the Marine Corps, and he went through for crash fire rescue, and he got there and the classes were all filled up with airmen. So he ended up like sitting there for like 3 months waiting for a spot in the class.
Oh man, that's terrible. That is so terrible.
Middle of the summer in San Angelo.
Yeah, it gets humid, man. Those Texas, that Texas weather in San Angelo is something different, man. They'll have just like these lightning storms and like just crazy like rainstorms that'll just hit and then it'll disappear like it was never there like a couple hours later. Like it's blue skies, nice and humid. Southern California does not work that way. Like when a storm hits, it hits and it's there and then it slowly goes away. No, this is just like boom, it's there, like destroys the entire place and then takes off. It's crazy.
Nice. All right, so I mean, do you want to talk about your military? I mean, your military time really, especially as a firefighter, ties in perfectly with Firehouse Sergeants. So.
Sure. I mean, you're the host. You tell me, man.
I
Sure.
mean, so the podcast is based, the name is based off my book, Firehouse Sergeants, which is all about the informal leadership, and I relate the firehouse sergeant, the senior man that takes that time and builds that leadership, builds that mentorship, builds that crew integrity and culture, and I relate it to, I think in the book I used John Bassalone, and Carwood Lipton from Easy Company, from Band of Brothers, and like I relate it to, they're not your bosses, they are, but it was more of a especially like the way that they portray those two in those series is they took personal ownership of their men and their unit, and like it wasn't about training them because it's my job to train them, but because they took that leadership role, I don't know, you all legitimately were a fire sergeant. How do you see that as a good correlation?
Yeah, I mean, just to back that up, I mean, I want to add one thought and then I'll answer your question. Informal leadership is really the key for the formal leaders. It's you have to leverage the influence of the informal leader and understand that. And so many people try and lead alone, and they try and lead against the informal leader. And I don't mean against really in the sense of like, now it can be against, but really just in spite of is probably the best way to put it. You have to partner with the informal leader because typically they have just as much influence and many times more influence than you do as the formal leader. And so it's why I say if you're leading alone, you're managing. You're not really leading at all. And so you need to partner with that informal leader because they are the most significant influence within that group. Absolutely.
That's my next book. So you want to be my boss? Fire officer development from the Firehouse Sergeant.
I love it, dude. I love it. That I mean, shout it from the rooftops, Nick, because it can't be said enough. Too many people are just trying to do this thing alone, man, and not really understanding how to develop teams and using the people, the power of the people that you have. And one of those is the informal leader, man. It's the most purest form of leadership. There's no rank there. It's pure leadership influence.
Absolutely. So when how were your experiences as a firefighter in the Army? Were you really getting that I made a great decision. This is really what I want to do for a living, or?
Yeah. No, it's funny you say that, because I was so single-minded to get out and become a civilian firefighter that I didn't take time to reflect on how much I really, really enjoyed being in the military and being a military firefighter. It wasn't until I got out and I stopped and I thought about it, it sounds weird. It sounds almost ridiculous at this point, but when I got out, I wouldn't say immediately, but within a few months, I regretted getting out, only for the fact of I went from being a leader and developing teams and really, really enjoying that to just being a fireman again, which is not a bad thing. But what I didn't understand about myself is how much I enjoyed leading and developing people. I really, really enjoyed that. And I got to do that for half of my career. Even though I was only in for 2 years, I promoted really quick. Not because I'm the greatest thing, but just the points were a lot lower for our MOS to get promoted.
Okay.
Because of the lack of people and the churn.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there a high turnover rate, or because there's only so many positions, do people just kind of get into that MOS and just stay there until they're ready to retire?
Yeah, it's a high churn for both those reasons. It's high churn for 3 reasons. Is one, there's a good amount of Army firefighters that don't do the job, and so of course they're going to get out. And then there's those like me, and I would say make up a mass amount of it is got in there for one reason, and that's a stepping stone. Hey, I'm here to get my experience, here to get my certs, and I'm going to go out and make some real money, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then that last piece, like you were talking about, there's not a lot, right? And so because there's a small sample set, even losing a small portion makes it to where now your numbers aren't adding up for your NCOs, which is what they're always trying to balance: how many E5s, how many E6s, E7s. So of course they dangle. When I was getting out, they dangled the E6 thing and San Angelo instructing thing, hey, you want to stay in and we'll give you E6 and we'll send you to Texas and you can be an instructor there. But I didn't even give it a second thought. It was just my whole goal is to be a civilian firefighter, and so that's what I did, but not realizing that I found a new passion, and that was going back to your original question of why did you join? It was easy for me to find another passion within the fire service, and that was leadership, because you need so much of it in the fire service. It just kind of, it's a team sport. And so when I discovered that about myself and how much I enjoyed it, the Army gave that to me, and I didn't have to wait for it. It was boom, 2 years and I'm doing it. As a civilian, it took a little longer, but I regretted getting out, you know.
Did you think about going back to the recruiter?
I did actually. It was like 2000, what was it? 2012, 2013. I called up a recruiter to re-enlist as an officer because I had my degree and stuff. And so went through the whole process. And I just had one last hurdle, and that was getting the wife on board. And so brought the recruiter over to the house. And at this time, you know, we were like knee deep in Afghanistan. And so my wife asked the recruiter one question, only one question. And it was the only thing she was, you know, worried about was, will he be deployed? He didn't even hesitate. He was like, oh yeah, he's going to be deployed. And I was like, man, don't they pay you guys to lie? Like, what is happening right now? Like read the room, bro. Read the room. And so that was the end of that. Like, she's like, no, you're absolutely not joining the military again. And so that was the end of it, you know. But yeah, that was my one last attempt to get back in because I did miss it, man. I really enjoyed it.
Now, did you, you know, maybe not before you enlisted, but while you were in, were you putting your eyes or setting your goals on being a civilian for the DoD? Or excuse me, by the way, where I work, it's DoD, DOW, like it's back and forth. So don't be mad at me if I say the wrong acronym this week. Did you always have eyes on one of those positions, or were you still looking at like a civilian department on the outside?
Yeah, I mean, originally I wanted to go work for Anaheim Fire when I was first like getting to this entire process.
Okay.
But when I was in working, because I worked, so my actual experience in the Army as a firefighter was pretty much a DoD firefighter. When I was at Fort Drum, when we weren't deployed, I was in the firehouse working with. They only chose 2 of us out of our deployable unit to go work in the firehouse, and I was one of them. And so I ran calls basically and trained with them just like as a regular civilian the entire time I was there outside of being deployed. And then I got PCS to Alaska and to Fort Wainwright, and that was a garrison unit. And so we were a mixed unit, and that was there was half of us were civilians, half of us were green, were military. And so that was just our fire department. And so like I just it was very, very much the least amount of military you can think of outside of like doing PT tests and wearing a different uniform. I pretty much just worked as a DoD firefighter. So with that being said, it was I was very comfortable and enjoyed it, and so I just stayed with it. Especially, you know, like my years counted and all that stuff, and I built some relationships. And I think the biggest thing for me was being able to like move wherever I wanted. You know, it's like one big department, as opposed to, you know, you go for a city and you're just tied down. Like that's it. Like you're there, you know, 30 years.
I tell people all the time, like obviously I have a lot of civilian firefighters that are friends of mine, and when they're like, dude, how do you work 72 hours a week? You know, comparing, because New Jersey, especially out here on the East Coast, it's very big on 24/72s in the municipal side. And they're like, dude, how do you do that? I'm like, yeah, but look at it. If New Jersey ever goes really, really bad, like, we got to get out. I was like, I can transfer. My time, everything comes with me. I can go to South Carolina. I go to California.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there's some Hawaii spots opened up.
Okay.
So it's a tough life with the schedule, but at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, hell, you could go overseas for a couple of years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's quite a few guys that, especially right now in Southern California, we're having a recruitment retention issue big time. It's the exact opposite of the East Coast. East Coast, in many states, DoD firefighters make significantly more. In fact, I just was reviewing a resume from someone from South Carolina. They're making $13.50 an hour working for the city. So that is below poverty in Southern California. So with that said, but out there, it's typically the reverse. People are going to DoD for the benefits, for the better pay. Yeah, you have to work some more hours, but everything else is better. It's the exact opposite on the West Coast, though. The West Coast, we work a lot more hours, we make less, and our benefits aren't as good. So it's different. It's different.
And
so
in the Northeast, it's kind of the same way. The civilian firemen working half our hours and making about the same money as we are, topped out. So it's kind of like you said, watch for us.
It's a real problem, and the problem really, and this is something that my fire chief and I'll tell you what, man, just shameless plug. I have one of the best fire chiefs in the entire world. This man is amazing, but he, he's working hard on that, dragging really our entire region with him, just to take care of his own guys. He's dragging DoD with them, just to take care of his own guys. And, so one of those things is some incentive pay and stuff like that he's really close on doing to, help the guys out here and get them paid some more money and make it more attractive to stay than leave.
I like that. If he gets it figured out, let me know. We'll get it.
Yeah, I mean, it is figured out. It's we're almost crossing the finish line on it. In fact, Navy, what really kind of spurred it is Navy Northwest. It took them 3 years to do it. Now we're doing a different one. We're doing a regional approach for 10%, but there's an approach you can do through OPM on a recruitment and retention pathway, and they got a little over 25%.
Wow.
Addition to their locality.
We're definitely going to have to get in touch off
for recruitment and retention.
Crazy. That's huge. We're definitely going to have to touch base off camera about that. All right, so
we have started that as well. So we're looking to do that as well. Like we're gonna in the next 3 years, we're going to tap into the it just takes a while for it to go through the OPM process, but our guys, we have full intention of doing the same thing they did. They provided the path, so now it's just copying it because we do have some significant. I mean, we're at like 55% capacity right now, so we have significant issues because of. You think about it, firemen, they're like, okay, do I want to make, 80 grand, working here? Do I want to make 140 grand working here and on a 56? Good luck keeping people, and so it's a significant issue. And so, so we're working on it. We're going to get there. And then hopefully they have the family first. I forget the name of the actual act, but it just took its next step, and hopefully Congress can figure it out. I don't have high hopes, but I want to say it's over 70 people signed on to the bill on improving our schedule. So the problem with the fire service, and you hear it over and over again, I've heard it from multiple people, we're mildly interesting when it comes to bigwigs, so it's like, until you hit the news, it's like no one cares. Like we're such a small piece of the puzzle when it comes to the Department of War, just we're mildly interesting.
Yep, 100%. Well, I mean, and sadly, even, on the collective bargaining side, you look at it, the entire Department of War system is the size of FDNY alone. So, so our issue of pay and hours worked isn't really a big issue when you look at the whole, union issue, union. All right. So when you got out of the Army, did you did you get right on in Barstow or?
No, so a cool thing I had happen to me while I was in the Army was Fort Greely, which was a couple hours north of Fort Wainwright. So when I was in, that's when they were like doing the BRAC. So the base realignment, something commission, whatever BRAC stands for.
Realignment.
Okay. So yeah, they were going through that process in Congress, and one of the bases that they had shut down, or BRAC'd, I should say, was Greeley. And as soon as they BRAC'd it, they turned it back on. And they turned it into I don't even know if I can say, but they changed the mission of that base. And so they needed to ramp up personnel there like immediately. And one of those things was firefighters. And so because they didn't have the civilians up there, I got sent up there TDY. Okay. And so I was up there the last 6 months of my career in the military, just doing the same thing, just different location, being a firefighter on a DoD base. And but I fell in love with the culture there. Fell in love with you just fall in love with the guys, And so it's funny when I was getting out, they were switching. They were taking a lot of the military billets from Wainwright and turning those into civilian billets. And so that opened up like a lot of captain opportunities and firefighter opportunities. And so I was offered a captain job at the time. Like, hey, put in for it, because I was already doing it there, just as a military, E5. So it was an easy transition, but I love the culture so much at Greeley that I turned down the promotion and I went there as a firefighter.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I was there for a little while. But after that, I went down to Texas, Corpus Christi area, worked there for a while. And my wife did not like the humidity. I didn't like the humidity at all either. It's right on the Gulf Coast, and it's kind of terrible weather. And so all of our families from California. So it's at that time there's in the DoD, at least the Navy side, they were using this thing called CHART. It's like Civilian Human Resource Regional something. I don't know. But basically, it was a cool system for us, and it sucked for HR. And that was you could submit your resume to a region, and every time a position would open up, it would automatically apply you to those jobs in the region.
Really?
For whatever series you wanted. It was freaking awesome. And so, like,
when was this?
Huh?
When was this?
This was 2004, 2005.
Oh, okay. This is before my time.
Yeah. So
09.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, they'd stopped it shortly after that because you can see the mess with that every time. Because even after you take a job, that your resume would stay on there for 6 months. Like as soon as you put in there, and so fire chiefs would be like giving you a call, like, hey, see, you want to come work here? Like, are you still interested? And it's like, no, I just took a job. I'm just still on the list, kind of thing. And so like it created a nightmare for them.
That did happen to a guy my dad worked with. I can't think of his name. He left Fort. He was on that. He went to Fort. He left Fort Monmouth. He moved. They moved him everything to California somewhere to an Army base. And he literally like walked in the door, signed the paper and everything, and got promoted again. And like went to another spot. I want to say in like Alabama, might have been Fort Rucker.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like I don't even know if he got all his uniforms in California, but he was whoop, whoop, later.
Yeah, no, it would have been very easy to do back then. And so So that's basically what happened to me. I took a job out there in Texas, and then my current place that I work at, they called me, like whatever, 3 or 4 months later, and like, hey, you made our list, you want to come out here. And so I knew my wife wanted to go back to California. I was like, hey, got this opportunity. And then off we went. So, but I wasn't there very long because one of my buddies that was working contract was like, hey, we're making really good money out here. Do you want to come out here and be a contract firefighter? And I was like, yeah, man, because I really wanted to open up a business. And so, at that time, I think I was a GS6 firefighter. It was just terrible money, especially in Southern California. And so I needed some capital, needed to pay off some debt to open a business. So he was like, dude, come out here. So I got hired with Kellogg Brown and Root, and went out to Uzbekistan and did that for a little bit. But before I left, I had a meeting with fire chief, and I was like, hey, I love working here. I'm not leaving for any other reason. In fact, of like, I just need to kind of get ahead of the game, and I want to open a business, and this is kind of like my path to do it. But I would very much love to come back and work for you. And he said he would. I wasn't sure if I believed him or not. Because it's like, he held his promise, and so he hired me back when I was done with that stint, and been there ever since.
How long were you in Uzbekistan?
Almost a year. I think it was like 10 months or something like that. I cut a little short. My contract was for 12 months. But as you can imagine, it was pretty rough on the family. Yeah. So I came back a little early.
I was going to say, your wife let you go contract, but she would have let you re-up?
I married an incredible woman. Now, mind you, this is 2004. So I'm only like 2 years into my marriage.
Okay.
When the re-up, that's 2012, 2013. Okay. There's a difference in 10 years in the marriage. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, yeah. So she's done sharing me at that point,
Yeah. It's over.
Yep.
All right. So let's get into, your leadership roles when you came back in the department, and then we'll get into your book and your business.
Yeah. What would you like to know, man?
When you came back, like what was the firehouse like? Obviously every firehouse has its own animal.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. When I left from Texas to California, the fire chief said to me, he's like, hey, you need to be on your game. California fire service culture is completely different than anything you've ever imagined or experienced. And I couldn't fathom it. I didn't understand it. I didn't believe him. Some of it was ego, but yeah, working in New York, working in Alaska, working overseas. That was my experience so far. And then Texas, that was my experience. He was absolutely correct. It's a different, and this is not to put down any other fire department. That's not it. I could just tell you it is different. At least I can speak for myself and what this man told me. I wasn't prepared for it. The level of standard that I ran into was huge, man. It was just huge, and it was very humbling when I first showed up as a fireman, thinking I was like the cat's meow. And you show up and you're just like, oh my gosh. The only thing I can kind of equate it to is like when those college, athletes where like they're just like big and bad, in college, and then they go to NFL and they're a number, they're just like your practice squad. I don't care how many touchdowns you caught for Notre Dame, That's what it felt like is the best way to kind of equate it. Maybe not to that level, but that was my experience of, coming to my department of like these guys they knew their job inside and out like you wouldn't believe. But the biggest thing is you better know your damn job. You better know it. And if you don't, I'm gonna call your ass out, and you're not gonna survive here. We're gonna make your life really miserable until you either shape up or ship out. But status quo is not a thing.
Amazing. So. It's definitely different around the country. There are those places that have that mentality, hold you to a higher standard and expect better out of you. And yeah, this is the minimum standard. Minimum being the key word. And
Yeah.
And then there's those places that oh yeah, that's the standard up there. We're good here. We're good. Which I never understood that, but it is.
Yeah, it's
so
funny.
Now,
we have this a shameless plug for our department is we will, every department has like their bell curve of firefighter performance. Like some firefighters are just really good, some firefighters are average, some firefighters need some work, right? And so our department's no different. But what's hilarious to me is the firefighters that we've traditionally been like, oh, you need some work, and they move on to other departments. The fire, you said earlier, the fire service is small, so you have friends everywhere, and you hear how people are performing at these other departments, and these firefighters that are we would probably never hire back are they're looked up to as fire gods when they go to these other departments. And we're like, there's no way, bro. This is wild. This is so wild. But it happens over and over again. So I think, we can sometimes be our own worst critics. And that is because you have a really high standard in your department. And, and I would say most departments, by and large, have an incredibly high standard. Not everyone meets that standard, obviously, but because it's so high, even the people that aren't meeting that standard are still at a level that people can't fathom when they go to other places. And so that's been my experience.
All right, I like that.
Yeah.
So now, but obviously, without getting too in depth, can you give us a rundown of size of your department, kind of scopes of services, if you will?
Yeah, no problem. So we're really a diamond in the desert. So we're in Barstow, California. It's in the armpit of hell, basically. It's the high desert. It's 110 degrees out, freaking during the summertime. The only thing that survives out there cactus and lizards. It's definitely not made for human, population. But yeah, so we're right at the 1540 interchange right there. That's why it's a logistics base. It's warm, hot, dry weather for storage, and then we're a central hub for. We have the largest railhead in DoD. Is at our base, and then the largest railhead on the West Coast is in Barstow City itself with BNSF. And so logistically, it's perfectly positioned and perfect weather. And so lo and behold, in the 40s, when they were ramping up for World War II, when that base was created, someone smart said, let's put it here where, we got all that. So that's the gist of the base. And then, but with that being said, it's just a bunch of warehouses and large commercial occupancies. There's very, very few military on the base, it's mostly civilian, DLA, stuff like that.
Okay.
But what's cool about that is we have quite a bit of apparatus for such a small base that we're able to be incredibly aggressive with our mutual aid. It's why I've stayed there so long, is because we cover about 200 miles of freeway. So we in all four directions. We cover the 58, we cover the 40, we cover the 15, cover the 247. And so like a bunch of different interstates and going in different directions and going a very long way just because there's not a lot of services out there because there's no tax base. You know, you need if you don't have volunteers, you need tax base, right? Yep. So there is some volunteer communities out there, but the volunteers, like we talked about before, it's hard to get people to volunteer. And so the volunteers, they show up when they can, basically, within those, kind of unincorporated areas. So, yeah, so we cover, we have mutual aid with about 6 different cities and townships. And then as well as we are also, part of the state system where we send out strike teams. And, so all the major fires that you see in California, we're on them. Go to them. I myself have been on almost all of them. And so yeah, and then we do single resource stuff. So yeah, so that keeps us busy. We have 2 stations where typically 3 engines, a truck, and 2 transporting ALS ambulances. Those are all hard staffed, and then we cross staff a Type 6 and a medium hazmat and a medium rescue. Okay. And all of them are at the tech level. That's a long skinny of that. It's about 57 personnel, and let's see. And then we run about anywhere between 2,700 to 3,000 calls a year between the 2 stations, and 90% of that is mutual aid.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, man, because what I tell every single new person that shows up to us is like, you get all the fun calls, and you get to cut out a lot of the nosebleeds, and my ankle hurts, and really what most of us are going on today. I got a lot of friends that work for the cities. It's the drug addicts and the drunks. They're running on that all day, every day. That's what they run on. So when you hear guys like, "Oh, I went on 30 calls today," 20 of those are from alcohol and drug abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things that we don't, knock on wood, we don't really get in our community, our type of community.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we cut out a lot of that stuff, and then we get to we run some like amazing calls, man, just because we have so much area that we cover with the county and then the cities. These guys are going on TCs basically every day. Mine rescues to, in fact, just the other day we had check this out. We had a confined space hazmat technical rescue. It's like, like a lot of city departments aren't even going on that stuff, bro. So like, it's, these guys all that training from hazmat to confined space to technical rescue, all 3 in one, put that together and let's get to work, and so.
Plus you're also on the engine that goes mutual aid. It is what that's what a small department that's busy and active and trains, what they get to do.
Yeah, man, it makes it fun. So yeah, these guys they get to have a lot of fun and work for really good departments. And what makes a really good department is just really good people. It's people that care about people. That's how you have a good department. And we got a lot of good people that care about people.
Absolutely. That's awesome. All right. So what is, do I ask about FireDawg Consulting first, or do I ask about the book? Which one?
They're all one and the same, man.
With which direction flows better?
We can talk about the book.
Okay.
So a little story how that all went down is I after I finished my doctorate, I was invited to this like fire service scholars group, and they had put out within this. Well, first I almost didn't join it because I was like, oh, these are just a bunch of nerds, and like I'm not into like all this like crazy nerd research.
Well, yeah, you know what? Like, what got you looking towards the doctorate? Like, I mean,
Okay.
it's not really something that, again, that's when we look at standards, it's not something that's standard operating procedure for a fire chief to have a doctorate. I mean, it's awesome, but it's, what made you? Obviously, you take great pride in yourself and your successes, and not being stagnant and being the tip of the spear, but master's degree, I think. Doctorate's a little overachiever.
Yeah.
But awesome.
No, definitely. If anything, it just puts a target on your back in the fire service. But
absolutely.
Yeah. No, so I guess to back that up, that's actually kind of a longer answer, but I'll give you the short version of it. I've had a propensity to want to basically kind of like live a 1,000 lifetimes in one lifetime. And, what really inspired that was, as cheesy as this sounds, is our forefathers. When I was reading about them in high school and grade school, and I would read just about one person, and they were a statesman, they were a lawyer, they were a surveyor, they were business owners, they were military generals, they were politicians, and you just read about one person. They were farmers, they were inventors, and they were poets, and they were writers. It's still one person, mind you. And so to me, that was like so inspiring to me. Like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And at the same time, I lived like in this yuppie neighborhood, in Orange County. And I would see like they would go to work, come home, they had one job, and then they would like retire. Like, that was their life, Now, mind you, that's a great life. Okay. But it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I liked what the forefathers did. And it was just like, they accomplished so much and did so many things. And this is in the 1700s, it's like, man, I thought it was incredible. What?
We have technology now.
Yeah. Like, it's insane that they did that. And did it, that like.
Hold on one second, Chief. You're cutting in and out. I don't know if it's on your end or my end. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You were cutting in and out there. Last I heard was my horrible joke about technology, and then you started getting swapped.
Okay. Yeah. So, that's really what shaped, kind of what I wanted to do in life, now how to get there, and, the ways to accomplish that. I didn't have none of that figured out, but really what it came down to is I always admired that and never thought I'd be able to do that. Right. But here's the cool thing about life is, as I started to accomplish things, even the smallest things, those self-limiting beliefs that I had started to go away, to the point of where it was like, now it's like, I mean, there's nothing I don't think I can do. And I mean that honestly, like, give me Google, I'll run it. Like, there's nothing, not that I know what I'm doing, but I don't think there's anything I can't accomplish or do. It's just a matter of what I want to do and what I want to achieve at this point. If you were to tell me like, hey, I need you to build a skyscraper, in 5 years, I'm going to give you a skyscraper. Now, is it going to be a good one? I don't know. But I don't think there's anything that can really hold us back except ourselves. I think we are the only thing that hold ourselves back. There's no such thing in society I don't care what people say, like, oh, I got this bad and this bad. If you want to do it, you're going to find a way, because I ran into plenty of people that have tried to hold me back in life, that have tried to push me down. We get in our own way, and everything else is an excuse.
Yeah. Brother, I heard something today. I was listening to a podcast, and he said something to the effect of essentially the hardest obstacle in any challenge is between our own ears,
Absolutely.
behind our own eyes. I
Bro,
forget
it's so
exactly
true.
how he worded it, but it was kind of like what we hear and what we see is our own limitation.
It really is. I think we lie to ourselves. I think we discourage ourselves. I think we make excuses for ourselves. I think we suck at a lot of things. And so, I think we
We let other people's perceptions of ourselves
yeah, that whole
influence our
validation
own.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you, brother. At the end of the day, you can tie it back to yourself, man. And so I think once you figure that out, the sky's the limit. And so as I got the associates and bachelors and masters, it was just like, well, why stop there? Like I just go get a doctorate. And so and it's funny. Here's a perfect example of that. I wanted to get my doctorate right after the master's, but I didn't have the money for it. Like it's so expensive, and I was like,
it's not cheap.
Yeah, how am I going to do this? And I don't want to put my family in debt. And so check this out. Like, I don't know, maybe like a year or so. Yeah, it was like, no, it was way longer than that. Excuse me. It was, it was 5 years. It was right before COVID. So
Okay.
2020. So I got my master's in 2015. So we're 5 years removed. And, I still want to do my doctorate, but I don't know how I'm going to do it or whatever. And I'm sitting in this class, and it's a self-leadership class. And at the end of like the class, it's like they're doing like this vision board or whatever. Like, hey, what do you want to do? And it's like, what are you going to do to like get there? What's your step or whatever?
Yeah.
And what I told myself at the end of that class, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna figure out a way. I'm gonna freaking do it, right? To get my doctorate. So I was done making excuses for myself. As soon as I made up my mind on that, now I'm a praying man, so I think this has to do with it. But literally within 3 months of that decision, I found a way to do it for free and got my doctorate, got accepted or got in the program and got accepted, and it was off to the races. So it was just a matter of getting out of my own way. And then bam, it happened, as opposed to, just sitting on the sidelines like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get there. I don't have no money for it. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. Congratulations. Really. I'm going to give you a live studio audience tonight.
Yeah.
But so your doctorate is in strategic leadership, right?
Yeah.
If I have that correct.
Yes.
So now, was that? I don't know. I don't know how that works. Like, was it focused towards like emergency service, like your background, or were you the one you tailored your, I guess, thesis, right? Doctoral thesis. Did you tailor that towards the emergency services or?
Nope.
No.
Nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's plenty of programs now. It's funny, even within 5 years, how much it has advanced to where like all kinds of schools are providing what type of doctorate do they call it? There's an actual term for it. It starts with a P. I don't know if it's like practical or something, but basically where, because there's PhDs, right? And those are research doctorates, like,
Okay.
and so like they're philosophical degrees. So everything is based off of theory and research and how to research. And that's what a doctorate at that level is, your training on how to research. That's it.
Okay. So what is?
I'm sorry, it's professional doctorate is the term I was looking for.
Okay.
So there's PhDs and there's professional doctorates. So I got a professional doctorate, meaning the focus isn't on research. Now, mind you, you have to learn that because you have to do your dissertation. But that's not like the core principle. The core principle of it is you have all these classes on your profession of what you're want to learn. And so for me, it was strategic leadership, and strategic leadership is basically, it's top management teams, it's CEOs, it's COOs, it's leadership at that level. That's what you train on. And then you do a dissertation or a capstone, whatever you want to call it, at the very end, which is a year or two process, depending on how good you are at research and writing. Okay. I think, did that answer your question? I don't remember your question.
Yeah. So what was your thesis on?
Okay. So dissertation? Yeah. I did mine on corporate social responsibility. And that is, basically, how does corporate social responsibility affect top management teams and the bottom line? And so corporate social responsibility, for example, would be like when, let's say, a Fortune 500 company says, hey, we're going to start an initiative on, like, say it's like a soda company. All of our soda bottles are now going to be made out of recyclable plastic. Like, that would be considered corporate social responsibility, meaning the company is taking a social program, a social initiative, and incorporating it into their strategic plan.
Okay.
But the problem with that is that corporate social responsibility, there's a fine line between that and politics. And so as soon as these big companies, they start choosing sides on what they feel is a social responsibility for themselves and as a company, now they choose political sides. And the problem with choosing political sides is that there's people in charge of that. And that doesn't, just because the board agrees, right, that they need to do this, that doesn't mean the management team is on board. And what I found out through my research, more times than not, it creates cognitive dissonance. It creates what they call greenwashing, moral washing, what they call.
Yeah, you were doing this. You were doing your research on this during COVID.
Just after COVID, yeah.
You didn't have enough examples to cite, did you?
I didn't do it on COVID.
No. I'm saying with the entire premise of the social responsibility and what you were just talking about, how just because they get tied into the politics and this hand doesn't necessarily agree with this hand, even though it's still the right thing to do.
Yeah, maybe it's the right thing to do. That's the whole thing is. It's reason why, I learned from it, even from my own business. Like, I don't, it's what I found out through my research is that, corporations just need to make the things that they make and serve the people that they serve. Because when you're, tying those two worlds together, it creates, a lot of issues for him. Too much for this episode that we can go into, but
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah.
Well,
So
I
yeah,
mean,
so
that even
that's
ties
what my,
into the
my
fire
research is
service.
on. What's that?
That even ties into the fire service.
Yep,
You
absolutely.
know, we have our standards. We have, you know, what the book says we do and how we do it. But then when we go to get our dollars, that's, oh, well, that doesn't really work out. Well, wait a second. You're the one who signed off on this policy or this contract or this set of rules, but now you're telling me you're not going to fund that. Oh, well, that's a different color money. I'm sure you hear that one in your position all the time. Different color money, different pot of money. Well, the rule's still the rule. Like, this is your rule, not my rule. So I mean, that's just it really you know, you're saying it doesn't correlate to the fire service, but it does. It really does.
Yeah, no, it's certainly all this stuff does correlate. It just wasn't the traditional, research
Fire
in
service.
our community. Yeah,
Gotcha.
which is what you take an EFO class or EFO. You go to do EFO at NFA, or if you do it at TEACS or whatever.
Mhm.
It's going to be specifically for the fire service. There's Columbia Southern University has a doctorate that's specifically for the fire service. So I just didn't go that route. I went just the traditional route.
Okay. And you said that was 5 years took you to do that? That's
No, I doubled up all my classes like a moron. Much of my wife's consternation, trust me. So I finished it in just under 3 years, but it was a 7-year program.
wow. Wow, that's amazing. Especially raising a family, working in the firehouse. Especially, I mean, it's not like you were just the fireman with no, little to no responsibility. You, what were you at this time? Were you assistant chief already at that point, or?
No, I was a basically a station captain, like a battalion chief, essentially.
Okay.
At that time.
Yeah, so you had a great amount of responsibility. You were
Mhm.
working obviously towards your promotion for assistant chief, being eligible for that, and working on a doctor. Like, that's amazing. Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, so now forging your team, demystifying that. I'm saying that right. It is demystifying, right?
Yep.
Demystifying team development for first responders. What is this all about?
Yeah, so it ties in specifically to everything we were talking about with all these degrees. It's like it means nothing unless you put it into action, right? Because so the master's was on leadership, the doctor was on strategic leadership. We talked about it early in the podcast. Just I live it, breathe it, I love it. So I want to learn everything about it, but the biggest thing is I want to deploy it, right? I want to employ it. And what I found out is the more I tried all this awesome stuff that I expected to work, because there's all this research and this is what they're teaching in schools, and a lot of it ties to our fire officer books. And then you put it into practice in the firehouse and you're like, this crap don't work. This is terrible. Like, what the hell? And I look around, I'm like, am I the only one taking crazy pills around here? Because this is insane. A lot of what I really learned is everyone is freaking winging it, to include academia. I don't give a crap what they say. I've taken the blue pill or whatever color that is, that in the Matrix. I've seen behind the curtains, and I don't give a. They can act like they know what they're doing. They have no freaking clue.
No.
And no one does. That's the whole thing, is no one does, to include myself. Okay, so I'm just recognizing it, and for whatever reason, people want to act like they know what the hell they're doing. So I just say that to call out the fact that academia has no freaking clue either. Okay. They're winging it. And so yeah. And so as I put this stuff into practice and I see it doesn't work, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to basically use my situation as a research project, and everybody became guinea pigs. So yeah, I got the experience, I got the knowledge, and then all I did is I added that reflection piece, and it became wisdom after a while. And so I put that wisdom into a book, and really I'm stealing that from Immanuel Kant and John Dewey, two philosophers. They had their own definition of wisdom, and what I found out is, it's actually like a mathematical formula, and that is the amount of knowledge you gain in any subject area, whatever, times that by the amount of experience you gain in the application of that knowledge, and then you times that by the amount of reflection you have on those experiences and knowledge. And then all of a sudden, you gain some wisdom out of that. And so that's what I did. That's what I applied. And it became a book.
All right.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I'll just share a few tidbits, is really the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway I found is we have a few things. I'll make two points, maybe three, but definitely two. One is we have convoluted this thing that we call leadership, because we've convoluted leadership, leading, and management, and we've put them all in the same damn boat. And like we interchange this stuff. It's crazy. Leadership itself, like traditionally, that's why, have you ever heard people say, like, in order to be a good leader, you need to be a good manager, or in order to be a good manager, you need to be a good leader? Have you ever heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that comes basically, they're not wrong, but that comes from the term leadership, which is basically used as a noun. We try and use it as a verb, and that's the problem. Is leadership is not a verb, but people use it as a verb all the time. No, leadership is a noun, and it's a rank, it's a place, it's a formal position, being in a leadership position. And so yeah, when you're in a leadership position, yes, you need to be a good supervisor, you need to be a good administrator, you need to be a good leader, you need to be a good manager to be in to do well at a leadership position. But that doesn't mean that that's what it takes to be a leader. Leader in and of itself, meaning it's unadulterated by all those other things, just leading. Okay, so take away leadership out of the equation, because you need all those things for leadership, but to lead itself, none of those things actually matter, because it's pure. And that's why you can have an informal leader and doesn't need to know how to manage or supervise or administer or anything like that, because it's purely based off of relational influence. That's it. Relational influence. And so like when you hear people like, oh, he's just a terrible leader, when really they were micromanaging or they were, whatever. No. Like that has nothing to do with being a terrible leader, right? Like now it can, I'm not saying it like can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but my point is people conflate these words and terms, and everyone is confusing the system, I guess is the best way to put it. And so I think that's one thing. The next point I'll make real quick is the entire point of leading, and this is what the book is built on, is to build a team, because anything outside of that, you don't really need to be a leader for. So here's an example. Like we go on calls, go on emergencies. I don't need to be a good leader to be an amazing incident commander at all. We'll say that because like, oh, people are calm or whatever, and they'll call that, leadership ability or whatever. But really at the end of the day, if I can make sure there's plenty of resources on scene, I come up with an effective strategic plan, I place those resources exactly where they need to be, and that plan is effective, I'm good to go. I don't need a single ounce of leadership on that scene. What I need is to be a good commander. And that's why, when we go to war, right, they call them commanders. They don't call them leaders. That's why when you have someone that's over a base, they call them base commanders. They don't call them base leaders because they're not in a leading position. They're in a command position. That's why when we go on scene, we don't call them incident leaders, because your job is to be a commander, not to be a leader. And so that's where, there's just all this convolution, right? And so going back to just the point, and I think this is where we really miss the mark in the fire service and in academia as a whole, is what is the freaking point of leading, right? Because typically you'll hear people, and I ask this question at conferences all the time that I speak at, like, hey, what's the point of leading? And you'll hear like, well, to take care of people or to meet the mission, and they have all these different, ways of responding to that question. But what they don't realize is that there's other avenues to do exactly to meet that goal, like meet the mission. Okay, well, I don't have to have an ounce of leading to meet a mission, because a company commander can meet a mission, a manager, a really good supervisor can meet a mission, so no, that's not the goal of leading. And so what is the goal of something that is purely based on relationships, right? And for me, and what I express to everybody is the entire point of leading is to build a team. Because why else would you need a relationship if not other than a team? You're doing it solo. As soon as you have two people and you're going to this a single goal, you know what you have, or what you're trying to build? A freaking team. And so what's the point of leading? It's only one point, because everything else convolutes it. We're not talking about all the other stuff that we need. We're talking about just the purest form of leading. What's the point of it? To build a team. That's it. Plain and simple. And so trying to get that out to people is hard, because there's so many people giving, like, we just regurgitate bad information all day. And so like you learn it in school, right? Because it comes from academia, right? So it's got to be true. There's all this research on it. It's like, and that's why I said in the beginning,
it was right.
Yeah, like nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Like, stop listening to them. They are regurgitating what they were told, right? So it's like this telephone game. It's like, and so I'm here like no, like I don't care what they've said and what you've learned. They're wrong. And I'm okay with saying that. Like, no, they're wrong. That is not the point of leadership. And here's my third and final point. And this is where I think we're really missing the mark in the fire service is not only is what's the goal of leadership and like what's the point of it, but like what are we supposed to achieve with it? Like how do we get there? And so if the entire point of leading is to build a team, right? Is to have a team. And are you still there?
Yeah, I wanted to highlight you on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm here. I just wanted to put the focus on you.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so if the entire point is to build a team and leadership itself is about relationships, then really what we're talking about is how do we get from leading for the sake of leading and having a team? Well, that in itself is a skill. And here's the example I use with people all the time, and I talk about in the conferences. If you can picture a vehicle is like leading, it's a vehicle is a typology of leading, and that is the tool that we're going to need to get from point A to point B on a map, right? That's the tool we're going to use, and we use leading to do it. And if we know that relationships are key to using that tool, then you can equate that to fuel, right? Like you're not going to get from point A to point B with your car without having fuel in it, right? And so what we do is we have all these classes like, hey, this is how you lead, this is what you do, the yada yada, all this stuff, and we're like, okay, now go do it and be awesome leaders. But it would be like this. It would be like, hey, I need you to drive from New Jersey to California. Here's where the steering wheel is. Here's where the brake pedal is. Here's where the shifter is. Here's where the fuel tank is to fill it with fuel. And that's where I left you. And I said, okay, drive that to California. The problem is you need a map. Not only do you need a map, but you also need to know how to drive the damn thing, around curves and stuff like that. And so that's the missing part, I think, in the fire service is we teach people how to use the vehicle. We don't teach them how to drive it. And if the whole point is to get, if we were to say that our destination is to have a team, then the missing piece in the fire service is the skill of building teams. That is the driving part. And all we do is we focus on where's the gas pedal, where's the steering wheel, and we don't focus on the point of this whole thing. And anybody who teaches leadership should be elbows deep in how to build teams, because that's the only damn point of it. And so that's why we suck at leadership, or leading, I should say, in the fire service, is because we focus on just leading and we don't focus on what the whole point of leading is. And that is to build a damn team.
No, 100%. I agree. I agree 100%.
I took a long way to get there. Sometimes it's hard to explain.
I was asking you for a synopsis of your book. I mean, it's what, 200-300 pages? You did a pretty good job. Summed it up in, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was. But I love it. I can't wait to have some time and actually get a chance to read it.
Yeah.
All right. So now, let's get into, and by the way, the leader, I never thought of the leadership thing until you just said, but it totally clicked. It really does. Because technically, like you said, you could be a horrible boss. There's all these pictures and memes. Oh, this is the boss. This is a leader. There's the differences. Well, you know what? He's still in a position of leadership. Whether you like him or not, whether he's a great leader or boss or manager, or whatever you want to spell it out, he's still in a position of leadership.
Yeah, the question is it because he's a bad supervisor, a bad commander, a bad manager, or because he's a bad leader? And what happens is if you're bad at any of those other ones, because you're in a leadership position, you know what they call you? A bad leader. And that person could be an excellent leader, but suck at managerial skills, suck at all these other things because he's in a leadership position. Being a leader is it's its own skill set, and it gets convoluted with all these other damn things. And they don't even know why this person's is a bad, leader in their eyes. But really what we're saying is they're a bad boss, like you just said.
They know there's a problem. They know they need to wash it off, but they don't know what it is. They just know something's wrong here.
Yeah, it all gets tied into leader, and that's not going away anytime soon. But I think it's important for people that want to move into leadership positions, people that are in leadership positions, to truly understand that, and because it isn't going away, not anytime soon, but in an effort to be effective, you need to understand what your people are actually saying about you, because like I've never ran into, let me ask you this. Have you ever ran into someone that just said they were a bad leader about themselves? Like in a leadership position. Yeah, I'm a bad leader.
No.
Me neither.
I've heard a couple people like, self-deprecating, kind of trying to waiting, be like, oh, I'm a horrible chief, or I'm a horrible lieutenant.
Yeah, like they're almost fishing.
Hoping that everybody around would be like, oh no, you're great, chief.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're great. You're the best chief I've ever had.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, totally just fishing.
That's just having minions. That's having your little minion group, and then the guy over there that stayed quiet is on the outs. He's not. God forbid he actually opened his mouth and told you the truth and answered your question and agreed with you. Yeah, he's really in the shit.
Yeah, and so I think there's a couple things involved there. Like one, we typically judge ourselves off of our intentions. I know I do. Just it is what it is. But two, because there's like this aura around being a leader, no one wants to label or think of themselves as a bad leader. But have I heard people like, oh yeah, I'm not the greatest manager? I've heard that all kinds of times. I've said that even about myself, right? But with that being said, typically what happens is it's not even a leadership. It's not even a leader thing, because, for example, like let's just use a fire chief, right? How much leading does that person need to do on a daily, like true leading of people on a daily basis?
Honestly, I had a chief walk in on his first day in the department, and he our system. He transferred from another department, came in as our chief of department, introduced himself. I'm the chief of the department. My name is blah, blah, blah. This is Deputy Chief blah, blah, blah. He is in charge of operations. I am an administrator. I have an open door policy. In parentheses, he didn't say this, but my door is never going to be open, and you're never going to know whether I'm in there or not. But you can come to me anytime. But follow your chain of command through your captain, to your assistant chief, to the deputy chief, and then come to me. But I am an administrator, and he is in charge of operations. I've never had a chief say that to me.
Yeah, I mean, he was actually just being honest.
Whether volunteer or career, I'm the chief. I'm in charge. To quote one of my previous guests from a couple weeks ago, who quoted Harry Truman, the buck stops here. But this guy walked in and said, I'm the chief of the department. I'm the administrator. He's the operations guy. Have a good one. Never saw that.
I mean, that's a great example, and because the point is leading happens at the company level, and the farther you go up the chain, there's a lot less leading that is taking place. Now, do we need to develop teams at every level of the organization? That's where I say you still need to be leading at those levels, right? But you're leading dispersed teams. You're not leading an engine company that you have proximal influence on every single day. Like if you're a battalion chief, you have stations all over and captains all over the place, And so it's like you're leading from a distance, but is it your traditional leading of a small unit? No, it's not. It's completely different style of leading, and it's hard. I'll say this: the battalion chief, or whatever you want to call that position in your organizational structure, that middle part is the most critical part in the department and is the least paid attention to. It's like the middle child, like the whole like kind of like, that whole thing. I think that's what happened in the fire service, because we say, captains are the backbone of the fire service, and that's correct. They are the backbone because they're the ones that have all the influence over the worker bees. So of course they're the backbone, but because you're the backbone doesn't make you the most critical, right? The brain is the most critical part of your body, right? Like you can make at least an argument for it, or your heart, whatever, right? Those vital organs. The battalion chief is the most crucial part of any organization. And the reason being is because they are the ones that are supposed to be building a team with the backbone of the fire service, and that's the captain. It's the people leading the most influential people that have the most on them, and that's what makes them critical. But yet that position it doesn't even get a mention. Like you hear about fire chiefs, you hear about assistant chiefs, you hear about deputy chiefs, you hear about captains, you hear about firefighters. How many discussions are we having in the fire service at the battalion chief level?
You're 100% right.
And it is the most critical position, because why do we hear every single department say we have 8 different departments here? We have 6 different departments here. Because that battalion chief, right, has not developed a team within all those captains. Those captains are flying solo. Hey, this is my crew. This is what I'm doing. No one's on the same page. That's where that happens at.
No, 100%. I agree 100%.
So, nonetheless,
think about it. Depending on how your department runs, if your battalion chief is that initial incident commander.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If he sets up and trains his proper, think of him as an offense, as a football coach. If his captains on his crews are the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and on game day they come to play, which for us that's the bell's going off. We arrive on scene. That initial incident commander, that battalion chief, the defensive coordinator's doing his thing with his guys. The offensive coordinator's going to work with his guys. And I could be able to just sit back and headquarters, battalion 1's on scene, and the fire's out. And everything just goes well. I shouldn't actually have to command the scene. Yeah, if I need additional resources or something like that. But if you're leading properly, managing properly, you shouldn't have to micromanage.
Yeah, so I think that brings up a good point, and that is even for captains, right, who are truly in a leadership position, is all of that stuff, all the leading happens prior to the call. You don't really lead on scene. You're giving directives on scene as a captain. Yeah. It's like, hey, you go here, do this. You go do this. Some people call that leading. To me, that's not leading at all in the traditional sense. That's you're managing resources. You're telling your crew, go do this. But when you're not on the call, that is where, like, hey, do you have the relational influence to get guys to train at a standard that is above the minimum requirement? Are you making it to where these guys really enjoy working with each other? Are you making it to where the accountability is not coming from you, it's actually coming from their peers? Are you making it to where there's actually a deep sense of trust? You've heard the saying, I trust you with my life, but I don't trust you with my wife. There's layers of trust in the fire service. Yeah, I'll put my line on the line, but you ain't stuck in the same room with my wife, for the next 2 hours. Like that tells you there's layers of trust, right? And so when you're on a team, there's a deep sense of trust. There's peer-to-peer accountability. You enjoy, like, you can't like you don't even care when you get the shitty assignments because you're with a certain group of guys, right, or gals, versus when you're not on a team, all that stuff is not there, man. Like as soon as you get a bad assignment, you hear it like blah 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 blah. I can tell you right now, like any team that I've ever been a part of, yeah, you'll hear it in the beginning, like, oh, this freaking sucks. But then when you're in the shit, everyone's laughing, everyone's having a good time. And then we get done with it. They're like, yeah, we are the fucking people who take care of this stuff. Like this is what we do. They take pride in being in the suck and getting through it. When you hear that stuff, now you're on your team, the captain is the one that has to make that happen. All the leading happens during that time. And so I have the saying, and that is, when you are on an emergency, that's where you work as a team. When you're training, that's where you learn as a team. But downtime, that's where you become a team. And it's absolutely the gospel in the fire service.
And what also resonates from that, and it clicked in my head. Like, I mean, I see it. We see it every day, right? Hopefully less than we do more, but those high-performing teams also don't point the finger. They take ownership. The individuals within that unit take ownership, and that even comes down to the captain or the lieutenant taking the ownership and being like, "Chief, that's on me. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it."
No, 100%. And
even if it was an individual within the unit that screwed up, the captain or the lieutenant or whoever's in that command role of that unit takes the ownership that, yeah, he or she made an individual mistake, but I need to handle that because I'm in the role that allowed that. That's something in that was a failure on my part that he or she or they thought that was acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an outstanding point, Nick. And what I would add to that is really how you get to because you can say that, right? But how do you get to that point? And I think that's the missing piece for a lot of people is we know where we want to go, but how do you get there? And that's that whole road I was telling you about. It's a skill within the skill. And I'll give you the answer for your audience. The answer is it's an identity. We are social animals. And so we group up and we protect things that we identify with. So, for example, if you were to get a group of people and they've done the social experiment many times over, and you put them all in the same room, somehow, some way, all the nerds find each other. The paramedics, they sniff out the IV or something. All the truckies, they'll smell the chainsaw bar fluid on each other or something. So on and so forth, right? Like we are social creatures, and we're going to group up, and really it's because we have to have some type of identity. When it comes to building a team, you can't have peer-to-peer accountability. You can't have ownership like that unless you're protecting something. And so for you as a leader in any position in your organization, you have to develop an identity for your team. And so you start that with message discipline and, the personalities of your crews. Like you look at them and you're monitoring them and you're studying them and you're seeing what separates them from all the other a-holes in the world, right? Like what does this group of a-holes love and is distinguishing about them? What is distinctive about this group of amazing people that I work with? And then you rally behind that. What's that?
We are Engine 57.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I would say maybe even a little deeper than that, but like some people use that and it is effective. I always use
whatever that is, your flag, your patch, whatever that is that you rally around. That's what you're like you just said, you're protecting that ideal of this is who we are.
Yes.
We are this patch. We are Engine 57.
As long as the patch is distinctive, I want to make it clear for the audience, it can't be a department patch. Like, department patch is good, right? But when you're that's like an organizational team, right? Like when you're building, that's more of like building a culture, which is really important. And that's a whole nother conversation. But when we're talking about just building a small unit team at your organizational level, it has to be something that only those people can rally behind. So like you said, an Engine 57 is perfect. Like, because no one, it's only for them, right? It's something that they're protecting that is distinctive only for them. If you use like bigger things like the department logo and stuff like that, well, there's plenty of other people in the department, that are also that. And so it needs to be distinctive to that group. And so once people actually identify it with it, right, then anybody that comes in and tries to mess with that, that's what they protect.
Yeah.
That's what they'll hold ownership on. And so you can't build a team without building an identity. And so like, if you think you're on a team and you don't have an identity, you don't have a team. I promise you that.
I agree 150,000%. Because that's also taking that a step further. That's also what now I'm a probie and I come into your firehouse. I'm assigned to engine 14, the swamp donkeys or whatever. You're going to make me earn that patch, just like you had to earn that patch. Just like the original members, the plank holders in that organization, the guys that sat down and designed that patch, made everybody who came after them understand where that patch came from, why it's special, and how what they have to do to go through it to get it. And then when you get that, when the existing members of that family, because that's what it becomes, it's a family. Once they allow you into that organization and they say, "Hey, you're one of us now. You're now going to fight for that, and you're now going to uphold those values."
I love that you said that, Nick, because that's what it has to look like at the end of the day, is a family. But you're building a family with people that aren't part of your blood, right? And so it's a skill set in itself. It really is. It's its own. You can't lead yourself into building a team. Building a team is a skill within itself, and that is, you need to understand. It would be like, here'd be the difference. Like, there's a mechanic, right? That person can like build a car, right? But then there's the NASCAR driver who can drive the car, right? Yep. And so like, just because you can build a car doesn't mean you can drive one. And building a team is like driving the car, right? And so it's a skill within itself, brother. And that's what the fire service needs to be taught, is how to apply all these great things. Because we have a lot of great leaders in the fire service, right? We really do. But we need to teach them how to drive the car, Nick. And that's where the gap is how do you build a team? What does it actually look like? And there is a process to it. And that's why I wrote the book. And really what it is it's ground level, where I need people to like take that book, apply it, see what's wrong with it, see what's right about it, build more on it. Like, let's keep raising the bar on how to build these teams, and fill this gap in the fire service they do the surveys every year on, the state of the fire service. I know Firehouse,
what firefighters want.
Yeah, Fire Rescue One, I think, is the one who does it, and the numbers always come back like just paltry, and just you're missing the mark, and it's not to say I'm like some perfect leader, because I literally have to take ownership, like you were talking about, on a daily basis. In fact, last shift I was taking ownership on screwing up appraisals, just like.
Oh, you know what? But that's the thing, is that's part of that leadership, is earning your people's trust. And part of earning somebody's trust is being willing and having the integrity and the fortitude to first own up to your faults and your shortcomings and your mistakes, but then to turn around and work on them and actually work towards fixing, like an addict or an alcoholic or something like that. Yeah, I'm a drunk. Okay, well, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll go to that same self-deprecating, fire chief or officer. I'm a horrible boss. Okay, well, are you going to work on it, or are we just going to continue to realize that you're a horrible boss?
Right.
Like, you need to take that second step. Otherwise, your guys and girls aren't going to follow you, and they don't.
Yeah.
They shouldn't.
Yeah. No,
that's part of that, building that trust, building that family, is letting your people know that they can trust you.
100%, man.
All right, so let's get into. We're already at 2 hours now. Let's get into. Tell us a little bit about FireDawg Consulting and what you're doing with that. Maybe if you have any speaking engagements coming up.
Yeah, so I just got back from HBMA executive retreat in Williamsburg, Virginia, where talked to a bunch of CEOs that deal with revenue cycle management. It's basically like where people they handle all of the billing and the resourcing for managing the dollars from the time you become a patient to the time you leave as a patient, and making sure the money goes to the x-ray techs, the doctors, the hospital. Like, that's what their businesses are. So anyways, just got back from that retreat, and it's the same old. Like, they're dealing with the same stuff the fire service is dealing with. And so there's a lot of these things that we're dealing with are just universally friction points in organizations everywhere. And so I keep running into that. I'll be going to Delaware in September, speaking at their conference. So what I didn't know, Delaware is still, from what I understand, 100% volunteer, and like a volunteer state. Like, they have paid call, I think, is like what they just get into now, but that's how it was kind of explained to me.
It's a tricky situation, Delaware, and I live an hour and a half away from Delaware and stuff. It's an odd system that they have.
Okay.
Like, they have.
Yeah, I don't know much about it, so you'd be educating me.
They have, from my understanding, the fire company, the volunteer fire company, will employ the full-time employee.
Okay.
I don't get it, but I guess it works. They have some big departments, and they got some busy departments that do a lot of work.
Oh, I bet.
But yeah. So where's
I'm
that
looking
at?
forward to going out there. And what's that?
Where in Delaware is that at?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you. I should know if I'm plugging it, but
Well, I'm gonna have a link to your website.
Yeah,
your book in the notes on this. So
yeah, that's fine. I can send you all the information. But yeah, so I do, as far as the business itself, I just developed something pretty awesome, newer to the, I guess real quick, what I'll say is, I do workshops. So I go out to departments all over the nation, and I do workshops on building teams, management teams, executive teams, leadership teams, and then just for the entire department itself as well. And then I do executive coaching, and then do webinars, and then also train the trainer courses.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, almost all of it, to be honest with you. And it's been super fun and rewarding. And then, so recently I developed something first in the fire service that I know of, at least. And that is what I found out in the fire service is you go out to these departments and you teach them all about leading, right? And then you leave, and then they're left holding the bag, and they're like, okay, now that I'm in this situation, what do I do? Now that I'm in this situation, what do I do? And so it's like, there's that ongoing support is really hard unless the department's going to pay for coaching, which I also do, but that gets expensive, right? Like a lot of departments just don't have the money for it. And so I figured out a way to solve that problem. And so over the last 6 months, what I did is I hired a developer, and we put all of my proprietary information, the book, articles, and then myself trained an AI agent on fire service leadership only. And so now I developed a fire service coach, but it's AI. Okay. So it basically has, my 26 years of fire service experience with all of the proprietary knowledge on how to build teams, and then ran it through, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of different scenarios to ensure that it diagnoses the problem. It tells the why it's happening, what you're doing that can use some improvement, and here's your plan moving forward on what you need to do in order to fix whatever situation you're in. So anything from a simple question to a complex question, it is 24/7 coaching, but only for the fire service, which is great because it's not like going into ChatGPT and it's going to give you some generic answer that you can just Google. No, this is only for the fire service, specifically for fire service leadership. But it's that coaching piece that people can't afford, that departments can't afford. So it's on my website. Individual plans are $19 a month, and then it gets cheaper as obviously the more people you want in your organization to have access to 24/7 coaching on this middle part in the fire service, and that is how to build a team. So instead of guessing, there's no guessing anymore. All the tools I put in there, like on the 4 stages of building a team, of heating, shaping, cooling, and polishing. It tells you what stage you're in and what you need to do, all the phases of like, hey, this is where you're at in your team development cycle. It tells you exactly where you're at and what you need to do to move into the next phase. There's nothing like it. It's so good that it's teaching the teacher. Like I put it in for my own stuff, and I'm like, gosh darn, this thing is, I'm blown away that it's better than me now.
And you know what also I like about that from the instructor side of that? I'm always afraid of, especially like if you're teaching like a task level class, like using a saw or a search technique or something like that. God forbid somebody gets in trouble. Really, God forbid somebody gets hurt. And they go, oh, well, Nick Palumbo taught me how to do that. And they go back, and now I read the report as I'm getting sued. And I go, well, that's not what I taught him. Like, they completely misconstrue or misinterpret what the instructors taught. And then they turn around and teach it to somebody else. And now your name's tagged on this. You're the AI bot, bro. It's your thoughts, it's your everything. That's awesome. I love it.
It is. It's cool to teach artificial intelligence on how it needs to think and what it needs to do, as opposed to a lot of people use it for it to teach them, and so but now it's like I said, roles are reversal. Like it's as I'm running into stuff, I'm using my own product, and I'm loving it. I'm putting the plans that it's giving me in place as we speak, and it's amazing. So I'm enjoying it. That's the latest thing.
You ever like go to your guys if you have that guy, I'm sure, that you just don't want to deal with. You like type in his problem and hand him the
Yes.
phone.
No. That was one of the first questions I gave it. 100%. It's funny you bring that up. Like, I typed in the problem child on my phone, and I even typed in like, hey, this is what is being said about me. What do I need to do, to fix this? And
That's awesome.
Here's the boom, 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 boom. This is why it's being said. This is the problems you're having. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Now, is this like it?
Helps with blind spots.
Like an app, or
it's so I haven't decided if I'm going to do the app yet. I mean, you can obviously use it on your phone. It's desktop. It's like like through a browser or whatever. Like ChatGPT, like it's the same thing as that. Yeah. But you just sign up on my website, and then bam, now you have 24/7 access, and then you just sign in and use it whenever you want on your phone or on your computer or whatever. And the cool thing is too is that I can't see it, no one can see it. It's only it's all private to you. So like it doesn't matter what you type in there. You can be as transparent in there as you want, and it's all protected to where you can only see it and learn from it. But I think that's where we need to go in the fire service is really the coaching part. The coaching is huge. Coaching leaders on what to do in certain situations.
Another thing with that is it takes the personalities out of it. So now if I use it's one thing, like if you have that boss and that captain and that firefighter that just oil and water don't work, I could take them if I'm a battalion chief and I can move them to different shifts.
Right.
But then there's an overtime or there's a trade time or mutual whatever, and they're working together. And there's a problem. Well, he's going to say he's a horrible employee, he's this, he's that, I'm writing him up, blah, 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 blah. He's going to say he's an asshole, he's picking on me because he doesn't like me, and he had his opportunity, and he's taking his opportunity to screw me. Well, I'm the battalion chief. I'm going to type it into your app. There you go. I'm taking the personalities out of it. I'm looking at the policies involved. I'm looking at the charges involved. And I typed in the full statements of both the firefighter and the captain and any witnesses that were involved. And here is a completely neutral, this is what you do. I love that, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point is the more specific you are with it. So like if you gave it a policy or whatever, or you gave it whatever information that provides context of what you're having to deal with, the better the answer is going to give you too. And so that's a really good point. But I think it's synthesizing that information too, because I mean, we have all that information, but for us to be able to, we can't synthesize stuff a billion times a second like it can.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So yeah, and so I'm excited about it as far as that goes. And then, but yeah, that's just a tool, right? You still got to put that stuff into action. And at the end of the day is like, Absolutely. And you talked about it before, it's all about execution.
Yep.
And so, so with that said, yeah, with the business, I enjoy, training and doing workshops and coaching and speaking and doing all the things, just spreading the word on trying to help the fire service as much as it's helped me.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Great show. Do you have anything else you wanna touch on, or shout outs you have for anybody? Or
no, I do appreciate your time, Nick. This was a really enjoyable conversation, and it was awesome to be able to meet you in person, and so that's cool.
We became best friends like that. It was amazing.
Yeah, dude. It was too easy.
We went and did karate in the garage.
Yeah, that's right, man. Yeah. Hopefully, I get to see you at FDIC again next year, man.
Yeah, awesome. I would love to. I'm actually Jesse's bringing me out to California in
Okay. What part?
August. In August, Big Bear.
Dude, it's
We're
like
gonna do.
45 minutes from me. We got to meet up.
All right, awesome, definitely. Yeah, we're gonna be myself, Dave McGlynn, um, Dennis Riley, Chief Dennis Riley. We're gonna be coming out. We're all gonna do. I think we're gonna teach a day at Jesse's place at Red Helmet, and then we're going to Big Bear. I guess he has a timeshare, and we're all gonna just chill for a weekend and spend time with the families. And
Love it, man.
yeah,
Yeah, let's meet up, dude.
absolutely, brother, absolutely. And when you figure out where in Delaware you're going to be, it's literally an hour and a half away.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah,
but
that sounds good, dude.
but thank you. I really appreciate you coming on, taking time. And the listeners, if you haven't, look it up. The link is going to be on. I'm telling you, it's a fire engineering bestseller on fireengineeringbooks.com. All right, brother, I'm going to put you in the back stage. We'll say our goodbyes off air, and I'll be right back.
All right, bud.
All right, everybody, that wraps up another great episode of Firehouse Sergeants Podcast with Dr. Chief Johnny Torgeson. Everybody, have a good night, have a good week, stay safe, and like, comment, share, and subscribe.